Welcome to the Houndsman XP Podcast. I am your host, Chris Powell, and this particular episode is unlike anything I've ever heard, let alone recorded. The terms epic and awesome, they get thrown around and they get used all the time. They're overused. But this story from Bridger Petrini will have you on the edge of your seat. I promise you. Bridger Petrini is a longtime houndsman and the owner and operator of Tri-State Outfitters out of northern New Mexico. And I got the opportunity to meet Bridger at one of the ranches that he outfits on, and we recorded this story. And the reason it is so awesome is it takes in so many aspects of what we do as houndsmen, but it takes it a notch up. I mean, this is a story about survival. It's a story about mental toughness. It's about being prepared for a situation that we all know can happen as houndsmen. It's a story about being attacked by a 400-pound bear that nearly cost Bridger his life. And he still overcomes some disabilities, some physical barriers from this event. Bridger Petrini was introduced to me by Josh Whitaker of Whitaker Brothers Hunting and Anthony Pace of Freedom Hunters. Bridger also outfits Freedom Hunters with some elk hunts every year. I was hanging on the edge of my seat an hour and 5 minutes into this thing, an hour and 15 minutes in. And Bridger does an awesome job of telling this story. He's not ashamed of what happens. He talks about things that he should have done and could have done differently. What led up to this event is something that if you've hunted bear with hounds, we've all been here. We've all at times taken for granted what could happen. And Bridger lays it all out for us. I don't want to drag out this pre-roll because this story is too good not to dive right into. So let's get the tailgate down. This is a box shaker for sure. And it's time to dump the box. Bridger, how long have you been? Are you a native to northern New Mexico?
I am not. I was raised in I was raised in northwestern Colorado, just south of Steamboat Springs in the Yampa Valley.
How'd you end up down here?
My dad, the guy that owns this ranch here that we're on, the TO, my dad was leasing a ranch forever in Colorado, and that ranch was bought by this guy here.
Okay.
And that's how we got into bed with him, so to speak. And so he bought that ranch in Colorado and was going to get rid of my dad. But the previous owner loved my dad, and he begged him on my dad's behalf to continue the lease with him, because it was a huge deal for my dad financially. That at the time was the biggest ranch. It was about 22,000 acres. And that was by far and away the biggest ranch we had, because where we come from, private land, there just wasn't. There's a few of them, but not like down here, the big ranches. And anyways, he convinced him to try my dad for 1 year. So he met with him. He said he'd give him 1 year and he'd try it and see how it worked out. So we went through the first year, and that would have been about, I guess it had been 98 or 99. And he did a trial run with him. He ended up really liking my dad, and they moved on to like a 3-year deal. And when they were working that deal there, he told him, he said, I just bought the TO in New Mexico. He said, I don't want to deal with a bunch of different outfitters. Do you want it too? And my dad about fell out of his chair, And, of course, he did. He wanted it. And I guess that had to have been 99 when they reworked the deal anyways. Yeah. I think the first year was 98. And, Dad, yes, he'd do it. And so he got the lease on this, and he sent me down here in the spring of 2000 to learn the ranch. And, it's huge, obviously, and it's actually grown a pile since then, but to get around it and learn it and things like that. And I posted signs and did some different things. And so that's what got me here initially. And the ranch manager at the time was showing me around and showing me country and stuff like that. He's now my father-in-law. So he'd made the mistake of introducing me to his daughter that summer. My wife Janelle, who's she was at school in Canyon, Texas there, and she come home that summer and we started dating, and we were engaged in 6 months and married in another 6 months.
No kidding.
Married a year later, and I've never left. Yeah, we've moved once. We lived here at headquarters initially, right in that second house, that's called the Cook House.
Right.
And then we moved down to the box camp where we're at right now.
So you're really, how long have you been on the TO now?
So 23 years.
23 years.
Yeah, 23 years.
98,000 acres. Is that how much it is?
No, it's about 225,000 acres.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not, no. The original piece was 100,000, like 101,000. Well, it had shrunk over the years, and then when this guy bought it, he tried to piece a lot of it back on, the historical stuff. And some of it's not, like where we live now, that was an add-on. It historically was the TO. And so now and then he bought a place over here north of Des Moines too that we count on that. It's called the TO East.
Nice.
And so in total, it's about 225,000 acres.
That'll keep you busy.
Right. And now we lease. I can't even remember. It's on our website, but we lease like 900,000 acres. So
what's the name of your outfitting business?
It's Tri-State Outfitters.
Tri-State Outfitters.
Yeah, we're only 2 states now. We actually are we've really just partnered on a deal in Florida. So we're back to 3 states again, but we've been only 2 states. But it's been Tri-State forever, so we didn't see any sense in changing the name. Sure. But it's come a long ways. I bought my dad out in 2010, and so that's.
So what states does it include?
Colorado, New Mexico, and now Florida.
Yeah. What was the try before?
It varied when Mom and Dad. They had a different name initially, and when they started outfitting, and he was just kind of doing it as a side deal to ranching, and we were ranching with my granddad up in northern Colorado, and they had a different name initially, and then but to answer your question, I believe I get asked this a lot. I think it was Wyoming, Colorado, and Utah. Yeah, that was the 3 states there.
That makes sense.
The tri-states, but then that varied over the years. It was Wyoming, Colorado, and New Mexico, and then at one time we were in 5 states and 2 countries. We were in Mexico, so we used to joke about that. But
yeah,
we've got so much land now leased that we didn't. I'm not. I'll lease good country that's close around or whatever. But I'm always looking for country. But I don't want to go states away. It would take a big deal to do that.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you've been in the outfitting business your whole life then.
I have. We ranched, and we still ranch now, and we do other things. We build fence in the summertime. We've got some heavy equipment. We do mulching, like fire mitigation stuff. We got skid steer size up to excavator with drum mulchers, and then we build fence.
Yeah, that's cool.
Whatever, we just like to work, and there's no point in sitting around. So we do that. We mess with real estate a little bit, and just anything we can do.
Seems to be a theme for cowboys and ranchers out here. You just can't get them to sit still. There's always something to do.
Yeah, there's only so much time in a day, and a guy only gets so many days. So
I'll tell you what, man, this country is crazy. It's different than any place I've ever turned dogs loose in. We were on the Navajo a couple years ago, and that was cool. But this mesa country blows my mind. I started doing research on, why mesas are flat on top, and it's got to do with, lava composites are harder than sedentary rock, and so it was all volcano country.
Right. It is.
And the dogs know it. I thought I had my dog's feet ready.
It's impossible. Yeah,
I guarantee
you can't. I mean, you just got to rotate them. That's the thing. If you're hunting hard, you can't hunt them day after day here.
Right.
You can't. This is hard country. It is. We don't get a lot of snow here, for lion hunting. So but it's tough. Big rims, and they're not giant, but they're big enough that critters get away in them. And
I'm looking out the window at the lodge here at the TO, and just this rock face going up on top of this mesa right here. Bear skirt up through there.
Yeah,
or a lion or whatever. I mean, it's going to take some time for even a good dog to figure out which direction they went.
Yep.
And then your weather is the craziest thing. Like the other morning, we were trailing a lion, and the dew was on. Just good trailing. Sun comes out, and boom.
Adios. It's over. Yep.
It's over.
Yep.
You know.
Or vice versa. You're trailing one in the evening, the dew falls, it's over. And
It's wild.
We get a lot of wind, which is not a lot of fun. Different times of the year. So.
I mean, New Mexico is not unique to dew and stuff like that, but it's so dry.
Right. It's a massive change.
I'm telling you, man, when I got here last Wednesday, a week ago, about 10 days ago, it just came off a big rain, and it was lush green. And until we got that rain the other day, and the 6 days, I watched the grass turn.
It was drying out.
Yeah, it was brown. This country uses it quick.
Yeah.
That moisture.
Yeah, it's strong. It's when you grow grass, it's amazingly strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet the roots are deep.
Yeah, and it's just great feed. You put 300 pounds on a yearling here in a season.
Yeah,
it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Well,
how long you been in hounds? You've done that your whole?
I haven't done it my whole life. My dad didn't have hounds. He was a hunter, for sure. But he never had hounds. And they'd moved to Delta, Colorado, in the, I guess, later 90s. And I had already left the nest. And I had been in South Texas. My sister lived down there, and I'd go down there and spend time with them and just mess around day work. And we rodeoed and stuff like that. And I come home one summer, and they had built an arena. In a roping arena, and they had a guy move in pretty close that also roped, and somehow they got introduced, and they started roping with my parents. It was John and Debbie Kane, and John Kane was a great hunter, really, really great hunter. He come from Patagonia down there in southern Arizona.
Yeah,
and I met John roping and got to visit him with him. He was a government hunter, and he did all hounds basically, and he took care of all the sheep herds and stuff there on the west slope, which is a lot. I don't know how many, probably millions of sheep, and
sure,
they get all that depredation stuff. And he started telling me, and I thought, man, that sounded really neat. I'd run bobcats and hogs when I was little bitty in Texas. We lived down there for a little while growing up. Dad had a job down there, and I liked it then. I remembered really liking it, but I hadn't really been around it since then. I maybe coon hunted a time or two, but I always thought it was really neat. But anyways, John asked me if I'd go with him. And of course, I said yes. And it was like one evening we were sitting there on our horses roping and just standing there talking. And he said that he just got a call, and there's a bear got into some sheep, and they were having trouble. So I got up and we went up on I guess it's the Uncompahgre Plateau up there on a big sheep herd. This bear, I think it was more than one bear if I remember right, but they'd killed a dozen ewes one night, and they just eat their bags.
Just smashed them.
Yeah, I smashed them. They eat their bags.
Yeah,
because they're lactating. They love that. It's like candy to them. And anyways, we got up there, and I see it all the time now, and you do too. We see tracks that normal people don't see, and it's not that we're gifted. It's just it's developing an eye for it. On a hard surface, we just see light smudges. And John's saying there's this bear track going out through there, thinking he's crazy. There ain't no track there. He lets the dogs out, and they rip out of there. I still don't believe nothing's going to happen. And they roared off in this big canyon, and they start barking real heavily, and I don't understand any of this at the time, and he says they've got it caught. And I'm like, what do you mean they got it? He said, it's in a tree, and so we go down there, and we get there, and there's this bear sitting on a limb, and it was just absolute love at first sight. I couldn't get over it. And so we killed that bear. And I went with him some more, and he kind of helped me get lined up on some dogs, and they were all junk, of course, junk for years. And but anyways, that's the way it went. And that would have been, in like 99 or 2000, yeah. So I guess I've been hunting for 24 years, something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you called it hunting back then, but it was deer chasing.
We all go through it.
Yeah.
When you first start out, you just want to have a dog in the hunt, and it's the greatest dog you ever saw, even when it's not, because you don't have anything to gauge it off of.
Right, you have no idea.
And you end up messing it up. Probably was a great dog before I got my hands on it.
That's right. Yeah.
So
for sure.
It's funny, it's so interesting. You go around and you talk to guys that have been in hounds for a long time, and everybody has similar stories, how they got involved. And mine was through an uncle, and we've told that story on this podcast a few times. But same thing. It was just, but I don't think that there's something inside of us that those hounds trigger, because I'm the oldest of 6, and I'm the only one in my family that's ever been a houndsman.
Right. It's not for everybody.
No.
It's either in you or it isn't.
I wonder what do you think it is?
I don't know. But I'm like you. It was like the first time I saw it, I was just madly in love with it immediately. It was just the coolest thing I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish I could figure out what that is, why, like one of my brothers chose to do this and I chose to do hounds, there's something there. It's got to be something mentally. For me, the whole hound thing is just the idea of, bringing at this point, I've bred a line of hounds and messed around in that, and I don't consider myself a breeder. I can't even say I've bred a line of hounds. I've made some crosses on some hounds that have turned out really nice.
Right.
From the work of other people's good breeding.
Right.
And,
they all came from somewhere.
Yeah.
Everybody says it's my line. Well, they came from somewhere. You might have, when you start crossing, I guess you could say that was your invention.
But I'm not a breeder. But you do that, but backing up to that early days, it was just like, I've got a dog. I'm taking it hunting. Remember the first time that your dogs actually caught game for you? Do you remember that?
I did vividly. Yeah, vividly. Yeah, the first bear, the first lion. Yeah.
How'd it make you feel?
Oh, it was unreal. Yeah, because it took a long time. It was really, really, really difficult. A long road to hoe,
Yeah.
And then you're trying to hunt lion here, and it doesn't ever snow. And I don't really get that because I think that there's got to be snow, and then but then obviously we know, I knew it was possible.
Sure.
To do it without snow.
Yeah.
And so, but it's obviously lots tougher. I don't care who you are; it's way tougher. And so, yeah, it was unbelievable. It was a long time. It took me 2 years, I guess, to catch a lion.
There's a lot of different challenges, when you come to the Southwest to lion hunt. Mm-hmm. But every place has its challenges. Casey Stutzman, I was with him in Montana, and we had snow, but it was melty, mushy.
Mm-hmm. That's worse.
We had line tracks. We couldn't trail in that either.
It's worse than not having any snow. Yeah.
And then it just cuts the dog's feet. Yeah. Ice crystals just wore the feet off of dogs.
Yeah.
A lot of the same issues that you have here, just in a different climate.
It's all climate based.
I'm not gonna lie though. I mean, you can I've taken Indiana coon dogs in that good fluffy powdery snow that is going to hold some scent and caught some lions, and they weren't lion dogs.
Wow, yeah.
But it was just a freak thing. I brought counterfeits out here and trashed on a bear the other day, and they caught an easy bear.
Yeah,
so,
right.
But for me, Bridger, it's like, I hope I never figure it all out.
That's the cool part, right? Yeah, you're always learning every time you go. Maybe not every time, but there's always something that'll blow your mind.
There's something to analyze. It's like, okay, why were we trailing so good, and then all of a sudden it shut off?
Right.
Why were we doing this and the dogs did this? Mm-hmm. How can they not? Maybe you see the bear or the lion come out and cross a face, and then you see your dogs come across there, and it's like, how can they not know where that he just went through there? Mm-hmm. And trying to process everything and learn. And,
yeah, that whole running across the road deal. Guys will argue this with me, but Dan Brayman is another guy. I don't know if you've heard of Dan.
Oh, yeah, he's been on the podcast.
Dan has?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Really? Dan's hunted straight he's never missed a year since 1998. Yeah, we've grown up together, basically.
Yeah.
He's about 8 or 9 years older than me. That's cool that you've met Dan. That's really cool. So Dan was he was my biggest mentor, really. He is a dog man through and through.
Right.
Period. And he hunts bobcats primarily. That is what he does now. And he's got bird dog. They love dogs, the whole family. Mm-hmm. The brothers all hunt, and his son hunts. And, Dan, I remember bobcat hunting in South Texas. I lived with him for a year down there and before I was married. And we'd see a cat run across the road. They got lots and lots of bobcats.
Yeah.
We'd see a cat run across the road.
It's a golden triangle for deer and bobcats.
It is. It's bobcat, hogs, coons. My gosh, I caught 1 million coons down there.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah. That's crazy country.
He'd let me go hunt coons, but the bobcat would run across the road, and I'd be freaking out. Turn those stinking dogs loose. What are you doing? He said, we can't catch him. What do you mean you can't catch him? I've seen it with my own 2 eyes. And like I say, people argue it, and I think there's remedies to that. We're going to get off on a whole side topic here. You may want to stop me, but that always blew my mind. A bear, they'd run him hard, but I'd never get him caught. I've seen it happen, actually. We have caught some. But it's, that the bobcat, you let him out and they won't even bark. They have no idea he was even there. And I've not seen a lion personally run across the road, like to have hounds right there and stuff. But I've had people seen them, and you get right there and they won't trail it. If you wait, I'm convinced that that's the whole deal. You got to give it 30 minutes or an hour.
Yeah.
And then they're catchable.
You hit it.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a similar story. When I was a kid, 15 years old, riding in Kenny Burton's 1986 Ford truck down a road. I got a pup in the back.
Okay.
And a coon crosses the road, and I'm like, "Stop the truck! Stop!
Yeah,
I'm gonna turn my pup loose, because that's what everybody says you're supposed to do."
Right.
And Kenny was probably 50 years old at the time, been hunting his whole life.
Yeah.
He's like, "No, we're not going to stop the truck."
And I was the same way. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, and I was like, coon just crossed the road right there. He goes, "We're going to go down the road, and we're going to turn around, and we're going to just take our time coming back." Mm-hmm. I'd done this, and this is a stupid part about it. I'd already tried to turn pups loose on coons 100 times and never could catch them.
Right.
But I wanted to do it again.
Right.
Because it doesn't make sense. You got to be able to do
sense.
it. And so we went up the road, and we probably went 2 or 3 miles. So it took us, 10 or 15 minutes to get back. And he's like, "Just take your time. Don't worry about it." And he put that pup down, trailed it, treated it.
Yeah. I don't understand it, and no one can explain. I don't think anyone will ever explain that.
It's scent. We've done podcasts on it.
Have you?
Yeah, on scent discrimination, way scent works. Heath Hyatt on our Wednesday show. He's a master canine trainer that does all kinds of scent work. When Jeff Shetler is one of the world renowned. We had Nathan Hall, Dr. Nathan Hall, on the podcast, and he spent $11 million in Homeland Security grant money studying scent and how a dog.
Wow, I didn't realize such studies existed.
And how a dog uses its olfactory to identify and break down scent and use that scent to detect things, track things, all kinds of stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we've had him on. So when an animal moves across a landscape like that, especially small animals, we get an audience peeking through the window. Yeah, good deal. Yeah. As they move across the landscape, the scent is coming off of that animal, kind of like when you drive down a county road and the dust is just flying up behind you.
Right.
It doesn't settle right away. Mm-hmm. You can be standing there and the truck goes by, and then 3 minutes later you're standing off to the side of the road and you're choking on it, Right. So scent is made up of scurf, and it comes off the animal, it plumes up behind them, and then it's got to have time to settle.
Right.
Yeah.
That's amazing, because Warner Glenn described it, the way he describes it to me was like talking about smoke coming off of something.
Well, they use smoke.
Just like dust, you're saying, but Warner's not, this is pre-study.
Yeah.
That's just his observation, but it's amazing now when you say that he had it figured out. Relatively.
There was a scent book. It's called Scent. It's by Dr. Persall, and that's one of the things that we use. We use smoke machines to help us as canine handlers learn how scent works, and you just walk through there with a smoke machine. And on high humidity days, which you don't get many here, right. It'll hang in the air. It'll drift up above, where out of the reach of a dog's nose. They may trail it. They may trail it 50 yards away.
Way downhill of it, yeah.
Way downhill, way down where it's settling and the wind's taking it and stuff like that. It's amazing. It blows my mind. But the thing that really blows my mind is something that we depend on so heavily as hunters and houndsmen, and yet we know so little about it.
Right. That's what's so cool about it.
Yeah.
The Mysteries of Scent. Dub Evans, in his book.
Yeah.
He had that whole chapter called The Mystery of Scent. Wild analogies.
All right, here's a magic question. We ask all kinds of lion hunters this question. Mm-hmm. Do you think a lion can shut off its scent?
Yeah. I don't. I can't believe, and I can't try to convince anyone to believe that they can shut their scent off. Mm-hmm. But the whole deal when they go to sneaking, that's the whole thing. So like if they're stalking a deer, and not that I've only seen 2 lions in my life without hounds. I've had horrible luck. I've got guides that have seen 30 or 40 of them. They got pictures and video to prove it.
Yeah.
But I've been called lots of times where either a lion got spooked, and you know, like a cat. Anybody that's seen a house cat, you know, they'll run off, and then they'll either hold up, you know, they get behind a little bitty bush, they think they're hidden, or they'll go to just creeping away. And much like whenever they'd be stalking something, and I've seen that over and over. Just when we're trailing something, and if you got a little snow or something, or some way to figure out, you can see the tracks and figure out that they were stalking a deer or whatever. I guess the best example would be like when you get called, and they'll call you, and the guy was sitting right there. Maybe they was deer hunting or something, and they were glassing, and they glassed up the lion and the deer, and they saw the whole deal take place. Whether if he gets the deer, well, that's going to be pretty easy. But a lot of times they'll miss them. And you go right there, and you turn the dogs out, and they won't do anything. You might get a little bit of cold trailing, but, I mean, the guy just saw this lion an hour ago, right? Yeah. There. And, of course, he thinks your dogs are worthless. That's always the deal. The hunters are the same way when we have clients. When you tell them something runs across the road and you say, we ain't turning out on it, they think it. I mean, he doesn't want me to catch anything, you know, or kill anything. Right. But yeah, you get there, and it's just not there until you can get to where he gets up and starts moving again in a normal, natural pattern, you know, whatever he's doing there, then they'll pick up and just fly. Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know how to answer that. I mean, they say turn their scent off, but that's pretty far fetched, right? I mean, I don't see how I'm not a scientist by any stretch of the word, but I don't know what they do, but something dramatically changes when they go to sneaking. Yeah. Bear, I don't know about on that. I don't think so on a bear. Maybe if they stalk something, but lions are all the time stalking something. Yeah. Or a bobcat. Yeah. Or sneaking, you know, and that's they do something, but I know it makes it really, really difficult.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And did you see the same thing? I've seen the same thing on raccoons. We just talked about not being able to, you know, track raccoons at certain times, but yeah, it's one of the mysteries of hunting that keeps us involved in it. And there's some people that are adamant about it, and there's some people that are like, no, it doesn't happen. You know, Dale Lee is kind of the one that started that. And
that's right. He talked about it too, huh? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. So you guys do a lot of bear hunting on the ranch here?
We do here. We got a horrible, horrible quota situation here. I'm sure you're aware of that. Yeah, because you guys are in the same zone over here. We can hunt other zones. We can hunt across here, and this one's gigantic. But the way the seasons are set up, the August season works fine. That's a horrible time to be hunting bear. Everybody'd agree on that.
Agreed.
For lots of reasons. You know, it's hot and their hair isn't really good, and it's not terrible. We get away with it here. They don't rub real bad like those Alaska bears or, you know, places like that do, but that's a huge problem here. So we still do hunt here some, and then across the road we've got some ranches that are in the next zone over, and it's huge, and we do real well there. But we can only hunt the August hunt because then by the time hounds open back up, you're into elk season. And
when is that? When does it open back up?
September 1st. That's when archery elk starts. Nobody hunts them then. But you can't, you can't hunt hounds then at that point.
Oh, I got
Not here right now. That's archery and spot and stock only. You can't hunt bear as long as the quota's still open. You can hunt bear, but then on the 25th of September, archery elk ends, and then they'll allow you to go any legal weapon and hounds again. But then you're into elk hunting there, and so elk are king in this country.
You bet.
And everybody believes that if you run hounds, it'll run all the elk off the face of the planet, which you and I and any credible houndsman know is absolutely not the truth. But you can't blame them.
Mine will.
They're getting. Yeah, they can. There's time.
The dog struck something the other day up above me, and they made they went around the mesa, they brought it back to me, or went along the rock face there. They came down, crossed a little ditch, and came out, and so I'm watching them on my Garmin. I'm like, I'm going to see where they come across and just see what they're running. And I get down there, and the dogs run across in front of me. Of course, they're sore-footed and out of shape, not used to this country. And I'm looking down, all I'm seeing is elk tracks, and I'm just wanting to get on the button bad, you know, and I just keep looking, and I step off the side of the road, and there's a bear track down in the creek.
Okay.
And I was like, now what do you do? Did a bear just happen to come through here, or these guys, you know?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
But But no, totally sidetracked you there. So, do you guys take a lot of bear during the August season?
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we kill a bunch of them. It's not just me. I've got some guys. We do spot and stock hunts to try to capitalize on that time frame.
Sure.
And then we've got some smaller ranches that we don't want to run hounds on. You get on the neighbors real easy.
Sure.
And it doesn't work, or they don't want you. So that we know how that goes. And
yeah.
But then we do still hunt them with bear. I've actually basically quit with the hounds on bear myself. I don't think you and I had talked about that at all for a litany of reasons. But I've got a boy, John Evert, that works for me that's got there's nobody got better bear dogs. I would put it that way. And so he keeps he hunts for the government on my old job in Colorado that I was telling you about when I hunted for the government. And he hunts all summer, and makes more sense for him to have them. So he's got all of them, and so I just kind of coordinate everything. And we do, like I say, we do spot and stock, and then John runs everything with the hounds now. It's almost shameful for me to look you in the eye and say that, but I didn't run a bear last year, so they're. For me, we can hunt lion here year round,
mm-hmm.
and you have we basically can only hunt for about 15 days of bear season here, and so my dogs will run either species, right? That's the issue with that, and so lion hunting here in the summer or the spring or the fall or early, before the bears are gone, it's very problematic because you're trying to run a lion, and if you've got to trail him very far and you cross a hot bear track, they're gone.
Sure.
They're going to go catch the bear. That's a big deal. I've always wanted like one species packs of dogs, but to have a full pack of bear dogs and a full pack of lion dogs, I'd need 50 hounds.
No kidding. Yeah.
To split them that way, and so that's another big part of it. And then from a business standpoint, we're so busy that time of year, it's nuts with other things, lots and lots of antelope hunters and things like that. And I've always been in the bear woods, and my wife's dealing with, we have waves that time of year of 40 hunters a week.
Wow.
On 5 different ranches or something like that. And so she's dealing with a lot, and I'm trying to. And it was just the combination of things. I love running bear, but I would rather run a lion any day of the week. And bears, I don't want to say they're not easy. Anybody's but there's so many different challenges with bear hunting.
Yeah.
They're not hard to trail, but in general, like a lion is. But there's a litany of other things that make bear hunting difficult.
They can sure run.
I still love it, but heck, John's got all the John's got 30, 40 dogs, that he keeps runs bear as long as bear out, all year with them, and so he's got it. So I can still go. That is the cool part. But I'm slowly evolving. I've got dogs now that are 2 years old that have never been on a bear. So we're getting there.
You're trying to make specialists.
Yeah, just
dogs.
Strictly, where I can go hunt a lion right now and
don't have to worry about them trashing
right
on a bear.
Where essentially you treat it like they're trashing.
Yeah.
Which is still hard for me to say that
Right.
because I've hunted bear forever. But it kind of got I've caught lots and lots and lots of bear, and it seems like if we had a good season here, I don't think there's any way I'd do that. But it doesn't seem like it's getting any better either with these quotas, and it's so. This zone we're sitting in, we're open for about 5 to 7 days every year, which is ludicrous.
That's what I've heard.
That's all bureaucratic, and we've got we've got really great factions of game and fish here that they know it's a problem as well. But unfortunately we don't manage wildlife strictly by science anymore. Bureaucracy gets involved in it.
You
big
bet.
time. Politics.
Yeah.
And with the powers that be right now, it's not improving at all. So I don't have to have as many dogs either. That's the thing. I have 40 dogs, something like that. And now, I've cut way down, and that's nice as well.
You used to have 40?
Yeah, I have. I think my record, I had about 48. But actually, after I got hurt, we had some wrecks because the boys were trying to run them for me in the fall to take our hunting commitments, and the bear hunters. And so, it was a little out of hand. But, I'd keep 30, all the time. I always had 30 dogs pretty much, for the last 15 years or so.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a pile of hounds.
It's a full-time job just taking care of them.
Sure.
Yeah.
How'd you get hurt?
The bear deal. So, you want the whole story or just a brief overview? Or
as much as you want to tell. I think it's an interesting story.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard it from you, so I'm just hearing the parts and pieces of it.
So I'll try to not drag it on forever. But
The Houndsman XP Podcast is fueled by Joy Dog Food. Joy Dog Food has a rich tradition of supporting the Houndsman of America. Founded in 1945, Joy is proud of its history and the relationship it has built with the American Houndsman. And in 76 years, there's never been a recall. Made with 100% American-made high-quality ingredients, Joy Dog Food has one of the highest calorie-dense formulas on the market. For 76 years, this made-in-America product has kept hunting dogs in the field day after day, season after season. And when we say made in America, Joy has a long track record of fighting for American freedoms by being on the front lines against the animal rights movement and their extremist tactics. Joy will fuel your hounds and fight for your freedoms, fueled by Joy.
How it happened was it'll be 5 years in July. That's hard to believe. We were talking about time going so fast. So it was July of 2018, July 25th to be exact. And I was exercising, getting ready for this crazy hot August bear season. You know,
Right.
I had a pile of dogs loose, and I do the same loop every day on a side by side on a buggy, and I go south of my house, and it's pretty much all antelope country. There's one gap right there. Right,
yeah.
where two mesas come together, but it's not a lot of bear in that country. So 99 times out of 100, I've caught a line or two out of it, But anyways, I'd go south, and this 10-mile loop I would take them on. I'd always wait till it got hot. I wouldn't do it real, because I'm trying to condition them for that real tough heat.
Sure.
And I went on this big loop south of the house. It was about 11 o'clock, as I recall, maybe a little before. But anyways, I went on my loop, so I went through that gap south, make my loop, come back. And right as I got into the gap, there's some water there. There's a spring, a little creek runs down through there. They just exploded, just absolutely exploded.
One thing I've noticed about this country, water is a magnet.
Water is a big deal in this country, yeah. The drier, the better in that sense, because it isolates stuff. Yeah, and you can start lots of game on water. But so I got in that gap there. It's just between two canyon walls, two mesa walls there, and they just blew out of there. And so I didn't know, it could be a bear, could be a lion, whatever, I wasn't really sure. And they just tore out of there and went kind of up toward the rim. And so I kept driving up the county road there on my side-by-side, and I'm thinking I'm already on a timeline. I'm late. I was born late, and I'll probably be late to my funeral. And I had commitments in town with a mechanic, Donnie. And I'd already missed the first two appointments I had with him, and I had to reschedule. So I was really not wanting to be late on him again, so I'm bummed already that we're running something. And it's hot now, right?
Sure.
It's like 11:30 probably.
You had no intention of bear hunting today.
Zero. I didn't have collars on them. I didn't have nothing.
No kidding.
Yeah, when I exercise,
collars?
I just turn them all loose. They all listen real good. So and not generally in bear country, it's not an issue. You get lazy. You don't have to collar 30 dogs.
Sure.
Whatever. And so they hit that track and they run it through there, and I keep driving it through there. I'm listening to them. And here in just a minute, they cut. So he had obviously just crossed that son of a gun. It turns out it was a bear. And he got up to the rim, and I look up there, and there's this giant red boar walking down the rim. And 35 or so dogs, some just obnoxious number of dogs are fogged in following him.
Dogs, you wouldn't normally hunt with that many dogs.
Not usually, no.
Yeah.
The whole thing on having that many dogs is because we hunt for a living with clients, and so we have to rotate because you're going hard 15 days straight with no break. So you got to have fresh dogs, right? So, but no, when I exercise, I turn them all loose at one time.
Sure.
And I go along through there. My phone.
I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that that we don't normally pack 30 dogs out there to catch a bear.
Unless you're just going to go on a one-day deal or something like that. But you might probably known to take too many. But so I see the bear going down through there, and literally my phone rings right then, and it's Tyler, my oldest son, who you've not met. And he at the time, well, he's 15 now. I guess he'd have been about 10. I think that's all going to add up, right? He'd have been about 10 or 11, and he calls me and says they're outside working. Their mama had them doing something behind the house. Well, they've been with hounds since they were a little bitty, and they know they're running something, and they look up there and they see the bear because it's right by my house. So it's like a quarter mile from my house. The bear's like 500 yards max from the house right there, as the way the county road goes up through there. And I see him. I'm all bummed because now I don't know how long it'll take me to get him off. I don't have collars to tone him or nothing like that, and they just started him.
You're in it to the end now.
Yeah, we know this isn't probably going to be real quick. And calls me, says the dogs are after a bear. And I said, yeah, I know. I said, he didn't know where I was. And he didn't know I was sitting there looking at him. And I said, well, yeah, I'm right here in the gap looking at him. And he said, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I got to get them called off. But I said, it's going to be a while. They're going to need to get hot. But it was hot. We had that on our side. I'm sure it was over 90, at that point. And so he said, can I go with you? And I said, yeah, but just run across there wasn't a road there. He just had to run across. I said, run across the pasture there, and you can jump in with me. So he runs across the pasture and jumps in with me. Well, here in a minute, my wife calls, and my sister at the time, she's passed away now 2 years ago, but she was living with us. She was a severe alcoholic. I mean, severe alcoholic, and we had kind of rescued her. I had to go get her from South Texas. She was living with us for about 6 weeks that summer at that point. Where we grew up in Colorado, there weren't any bears then. Yeah. I mean, it was like seeing a lion if somebody saw a bear back then. So we weren't around bears, and then she lived in South Texas. She married a guy from down there.
Yeah.
And she had been saying since she'd been with us that summer she wanted to see a bear.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife calls, so that's why she called. She said, well, come get your sister so she can see this bear. You have to pay attention to some of these steps here, too, on how this whole deal worked out.
Okay.
I guess it's, how it worked out in my benefit. So I was irritated with her to begin with, my sister. I was already short with her kind of anyhow just because of personal issues there. And then I'm on a time crunch here, and I want to try to get these dogs shut down as quick as I can. And I said, I don't have time to fool around with Bonnie right now. I'm just going to go on. So we driving up the county road. Well, here in just a minute, we're going around the mesa, and the dogs we're right at the point of the mesa, and the dogs kind of cut out and went over across the top of the mesa.
Okay.
Nobody can see my hands here. I'm showing you. And they cut across the top.
Yeah, this is audio. This isn't visual.
Yeah, I'm trying to really use my hands here, but they cut across the edge of the mesa, the top where you couldn't see them no more. Kind of went out of hearing a little bit,
Yeah.
And we're buzzing around on the buggy, and I hear something behind me. Well, my wife comes driving up behind me, and I've got a little white Tacoma that I hunt out of too. And she comes pulling up. She's got my sister Bonnie, and then she's got our other 3 children, our oldest daughter Delaney, and then Allison and Tanner, who you've met here. So Tanner was a little bitty guy. He was like a year and a half or 2.
Wow.
Excuse me, at the time. And so they're in for the ride. And so we go on around the mesa, and we get around there. Blosser Mesa is what this mesa is called. And we go on around there, and we're putting out through the grass, and pretty soon we can hear them real loud. You can hear them over the buggy, And we get up there, and we get stopped, and here they come, and they come out across the open, and this big, giant, beautiful cinnamon bear, just a gorgeous, gorgeous bear. If I was going to life-size a bear, that was him. It's a bear.
Yeah.
If I was ever going to do one for myself. And he was fighting the dogs across there, and they're all fogged in. We got to see him several times as they kind of moved along the edge of the mesa, and noteworthy is he was violent. Like that was one of them. I seen like 3 in my whole out of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bears. No exaggeration. I did it forever and hunted for the government all summer. He was nasty, nasty mean, especially for as big as he was. He wasn't overly fat that time of year either, and we've been in a drought here forever, but he's just giant framed bear, and a lot of times they just lumber,
They just walk through, and it's like, you can't hurt me, go
it's
away.
Them 250-pounders that are violent, and they catch the dogs, and they're fast, but he was nasty. He would run one for 100 yards. I'm not, when they'll go after one, a lot of times they're like an old cow or something. They'll take a little bit of a charge. The dogs scatter like quail, and then the bear quits and keeps going or doing what he's doing. This sucker would line one out for 100 yards, where the dog thinks he's getting away, and all of a sudden he looks and the bear's right there.
It's like, hey, you're not supposed to be doing this. Every other bear I've ever seen only chased me for a few feet.
Right. He was extremely, extremely nasty, and I mean it only 2 or 3, that I saw that was just, really vicious,
Yeah.
And of course it's hot, and he's just like any critter. You get him hot, they get mad, and he goes across there, and we keep watching. Well, finally they bay, and they just aren't moving. We can't see them, but they're on the side of the mesa in a little ring cone, a little inverted canyon kind of on the edge there. And there's a bench because you got a rim. It's not a big rim in that country. A lot of places it's 10 to 20 feet, but it's just nasty jumbled rock and cedar country, mainly cedar and pinon. And he's on a bench, I can kind of tell, and they're bayed, they're bayed hard, they're just holding him there, and he ain't moving no more. And you can hear him rev up like he comes at them, kind of deal, how they'll soup up. And but they're not moving anymore. And I'm thinking, okay, everybody's getting hot now. Now's my chance. I'm going to go up there, and I don't know if you do the same thing, but if a lot of times you can spook them. The dogs, like if you get right in the middle of them, and then scream at them, you can kind of shock them.
Right.
Not literally shock, but spook them where they come off. Because, again, no callers. Usually if I can tone them, I can shut whatever down. But
my commands, we're done. You know, you go in there,
We're
it's
done.
like, we're done.
That's cool. I'm not
You know,
done
and
that.
it's,
yeah.
and you can, they all look at you, you know, all of a sudden.
It's over kind of
and,
thing.
Yeah.
That's neat to cue them actually
Yeah.
like that. I just start screaming at them. But, so, again, everybody's with us. That's another one of those things, you know, on how this deal shaped up. Bonnie got to see the bear, my sister, several times, so that was cool. And so I said, all right, I'm going to hike up there and I'm going to get him, because now I'm just panicked. I'm late again, you know. I'm fixing to miss all my stuff in town. And it's around noon, getting very near noon. And so I take off and I go walking up the mesa. I had just destroyed my ankle playing basketball with the kids about 2 weeks before. I mean, they call it a class 4 sprain. I mean, it's absolute surgery, like destroyed all the tendons. It was, my whole leg was black, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm just 2 weeks in it. I'm tender, you know. I'm going up through there. And so I take off, and I started off, and my oldest daughter, Delaney, said, I'm going to go with you. You know, they've all seen bayed bears, and no big deal, right? We do this all the time. And I said, no. Her mother called her back and said, hey, help me to move the truck, because she was going to leave, so my wife Janelle was going to leave. She said, well, we're going to go back. And another thing that was really cool about this is the pistol was in that pickup, just a self-defense gun. You know, well, it was a 10 millimeter, but I had self-defense rounds in it, you know, like critical defense or something, not a bear round at all.
Right.
But I just decided I'd put that pistol in my belt. I never normally would probably even carry a gun on a deal like that, because I'm not going to kill him, you know, just going to call the dogs off. So I grab the pistols, take off. Delaney's going to go with me, and Janelle says she's leaving. I said, no, stay here, because the pickup will be here, and I can get the dogs home quicker. I got to get out of here. And so I take off, and Delaney's going to go with me. Janelle calls her back and says, you stay here so you help me move this pickup. I told them to put it up in the shade or something right there, you know, so they could wait there a minute. So I take off, so I'm alone. And I go up the mesa, and it's not very far. It's probably like line of sight, like 200 yards, maybe 150 yards, something like that. Linear. You know, you had to climb up the edge, and it was just super rocky. It's rough, little deal. And I go walking up there, and I'm just about to top out, and they're on a bench. Right, you know, a lot of people probably don't know what we mean by that, but you got the little rim rock there, and then you got a kind of a flatter area with a bunch of big giant cedars right there, and then there's big boulders like recliner sized or sofa sized boulders strewn across there. So I'm sneaking up. Well, I'm doing what anybody's going to do. I'm getting my phone out, because this is going to be awesome.
Oh,
you know, he's bayed there, and I'm going to get some pictures and video.
It's going to be an epic video.
Yeah.
I'm going to go viral like the Whitaker brothers.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so I'm getting my phone out, and I just tucked that pistol in my belt, like in my leather belt there. I'd have a holster or nothing. I threw it in there, and I get my phone all rigged up, and I start sneaking up over the deal, because I don't want him to see me, you know, or he's going to booger and go.
Sure.
And I start sneaking up, and I get up, and I can see him, and he's standing there, and the dogs are, you know, just up.
How far away was he?
Right then he was, I don't know, 10 yards away.
Oh,
something like that. Yeah, yeah. So it was. I didn't have any choice to get to them in order to be able to see them and get right in the dogs, like I wanted to do to scare them, to get their attention.
Yeah.
To be able to scream at them and get them to walk out of there with me. It was. He was, you know, 30 feet, I guess, you know, something like that. He was right there, and he was right at the edge of the rim, pretty much, and just there was a couple big cedars, and he was kind of tucked down in those rocks. You know, those rocks I said were strewn across there. So I go sneaking up out on that rock. And I stand up real easy, and I'm trying to kind of mess with my phone. And remember, my ankle is like throbbing. I can feel my pulse in it, so I'm having to really pay attention to that as well. So I climb up on this rock, and I'm trying to keep balance there, and I'm fixing to fire the phone up. And apparently I did. You know, I'd got the record kind of started there. And I looked over there, I guess before, or at some point right in there, I looked over there at him. And he hadn't seen me or anything like that. And I was trying to keep him from seeing me so I could get the pictures and the video. And I'm like fidgeting with my phone now, and I'm stood up, but you know, I'm being still, and he's got a lot of stuff around him, and I'm fidgeting with my phone a little bit. And I kind of glance over at him again, and he's looking dead at me.
Ooh.
And you've done this a lot.
Yeah.
Like, no big deal. It doesn't matter. My biggest fear is he's going to go now, and I ain't going to get a gosh dang picture of him, the video of him that I want. That was my biggest fear of the whole deal. And I thought maybe he was looking through me. You know, just looking
for an
around
escape
or whatever.
route.
Yeah, something like that. But he literally like looked me up and down. I mean, he you know where humans different than a dog, you know, in their eyes. And he really looked at me, and like, I got his attention, you know, there's no doubt. He busted me. And I'm thinking, dadgummit. And now I'm like messing around with my phone, trying to get it fired up to do that. And all of a sudden, there are so many things go on here at one time, but it was like I got that weird feeling almost, and I looked back over at him, and he was pinning his ears down, just like he would if he was going to run a dog, and he just comes blowing across that like rock thing right at me. And I jerked the pistol out, and I just one-handed, I got my phone in the other hand, the stupid thing I should have thrown down, but I'm still not that boogered yet, like it's it just from complacency, honestly, that's what caused the whole issue here. It should have never happened. And I fired him. I believe you'll have to bear with me on this. You can help me through here. But I think it was four rounds I shot him coming across there. And he went to spinning. You know how a predator will bite at their wound.
Sure.
And he just goes to spinning like a hurricane, right, or a tornado, biting at his wound. And he spins kind of down closer to me, and like being jaded and complacent, I just stand there,
Yeah, it's like,
and I'm watching him. Yeah, I mean, I have no doubt he's going to do me harm, or I wouldn't have shot him.
Sure.
It wasn't like he was running by me, just panicked like stuff does. Like the son of a gun locked in on me. And I'd never seen one do that. I had a couple of them act funny, but like there was something different about this. It was very apparent. And so I went to pounding on him, and he was spinning, like I said, real hard, and I just stand there. And so now he's from here to the end of the table. You're better with footage, but I don't know.
10 feet?
Yeah, 10 feet. He's right there, and I'm still standing there. So, again, stupid me, Well, I'm thinking maybe he'll peter out, and die. But he's not slowing down. He's just roaring. And, of course, the dogs are now kind of fogging in after him. And I just thought, literally as casually as this, I thought I better step away a little bit. He's pretty close, and he's still very, very alive.
How much do you think this bear weighed?
I hate to say, because you know how everybody
was he 300 plus?
Miss a chicken by 50 pounds.
250
Clint
plus?
Henson, who's the game warden, he was the game warden on scene when this happened. There's no one weighed any more bears than Clint Henson, because when they trap bears, transport bears, have to euthanize bears.
Let's save it. We'll save it. Let's come back to it.
Well, I'm just going to say he doesn't miss them. They weigh every one of them. He said 400 pounds.
Okay.
So this country, he's King Kong.
Yeah.
That's a big bear in this country.
That's a big bear.
Yeah, huge. So he was giant. There's no doubt just from seeing him before. I decided I'm going to step away. Well, there's all those big boulders. You could kind of walk between them, but it would take a lot more time. So I tried to hop. I'm kind of forgetting about my ankle at this point. It's getting kind of serious. So I hopped. It was 3 hops away. I remember it vividly, just like a frog bouncing across there.
On 3 different boulders.
3 different boulders.
Boom,
and the reason why I
boom.
stopped at the third is because I hit the edge. It wasn't a bluff. It wasn't like a cliff straight off, but it was extremely steep, and just gnarly, rocky stuff with some scattered cedars in there. And when I lit on that third rock, now again, I'm going into super slow-mo so you can understand the whole scope of what I saw. I lit on that rock, and as soon as I land, 2 dogs just fly past me. You know what that means, right?
Yeah.
That I don't mean like they're lollygagging, like they are getting out of the dodge. And immediately I thought, man, he's right there. He had to have moved again because they're running from him. So again, this all happened very quickly, but I look over my shoulder, and when I look over my shoulder, he's like on me. He's in midair, and his head, I could have touched his head right there.
Oh, my gosh.
So there he is, and he just, from that point on, everything you hear about these situations of super stress in combat or police officers, I mean literally life or death situation, and it's actually, there's a clinical term called tachypsychia, and that's where your mind goes into super, super slow-mo, and it's basically, it's a fight or flight thing,
right?
How you can handle a situation and by slowing it down and processing it. And that was actually kind of cool to experience that. I wish I could have avoided this whole deal, don't get me wrong, but that was pretty cool to experience what the human body's capable of doing, because I'd never been in that kind of a situation.
Yeah.
Not that stressful.
Right.
And so he hit me, and he hit me so hard, it was violent, like the force behind it, absolutely violent. It kind of bent me over backwards, because he hit me in the back. And when my arms just reached back, I reached my arm around him and like grabbed onto him almost, because he's like he kind of hit me, like I guess about at my belt line. And I remember it was the weirdest sensation, because I again, the human mind's weird, I guess, right? Maybe I'm probably weirder than others, but it was like surreal that I had my arm around a live bear.
Sure.
That's something that really stuck out to me. I can still feel that hair right now.
No kidding.
How many hair?
Yeah.
I had hair, lots of them, but they're not alive usually, unless they're tranquilized or something.
Right.
So he just hammers me off this ledge, and it's super steep. So I guess I tumble. I don't really have recollection of how I got it down there, but I'm sure I was tumbling, crashing down through there. and I slam to a stop on my back with my head going downhill. So my feet are uphill, but it's severe, like you're looking like you're looking up a wall almost. And for a fleeting second, I thought, man, that was wild. And I thought he left, like I thought he hit me and then they were going to go on. And in an instant, he come from behind. There was like a cedar and like a rock there. He come around that, just like there's no doubt.
He came looking for you.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question in my mind. I just think that hill saved me. If we'd have been on level ground, he'd have had his way with me because I'd have just flopped over right there and stopped, right? But when he hit me so hard, he obviously didn't get a hold of me. I can't honestly say if he bit me then or not, because you're not feeling anything at that point. But he didn't get a hold of me. He wasn't able to hang on to me. So I crashed and stopped. And of course, this is happening extremely quickly. And I'm looking uphill, and I'm kind of at a little bit of an angle like that on the hill, and he just piles around there. And I remember like his weight on my legs, like his front feet hit my legs, like he's coming right at my face. And I just turn my pistol as quick as I can. I don't have time to like aim at all. It's all that subconscious, and I just turn and bang, and I fire into him. Well, it was enough. It made him sort of recoil, just spin a little bit, like it stopped him just for a second from getting on my face. And I just went to kicking as hard as I could possibly kick to get away from him. And I got up and I turned. I was able to kind of stand up, and I just was sprinting through this hellacious like boulder field going down the hill.
You weren't feeling any pain or any
zero.
Bites at this
no,
point?
Sir.
Yeah.
No, you're invincible. It's unbelievable, actually.
Yeah.
That's why I say that. Not that it was cool in any sense. I don't mean that, and not braggadociously at all.
Yeah.
It's just that it was amazing what your body can do there. And so I take off again, and I'm running, like running, just tearing off this hill as fast as I can get away from him, and I feel him hit me. He grabs me, and we just like roll, like in a big ball, kind of tumble a little bit. And he's on me, and I stop, we sort of come to a stop again, and I just start kicking because I don't want him on my face. That was really like vivid in my mind, like he's going to rip your face apart,
Sure.
You've read the articles where bears bite people in the face. They say it sounds like an apple, like you're biting a chunk out of an apple. And it was just things like that, and I was kicking, and I start shooting. But your mind again, I'm so aware of my feet. I want to head shoot him really bad. I just want to shut this deal off, right? Because we know how they get when they get amped up, even with vital shots. So I'm kicking as hard as I can, but the thought crossed my mind, just shoot, even if you hit yourself in the foot. It's better to. But I literally would body shoot him, and it was like another 4 shots. And now remember the iPhone deal or the phone up there. So I had hit record. So I don't have any video of this happening. Everybody always asks that. But I have the audio. So I know my exact round count. I had downloaded my mags because I'd heard about spring set. That's a big contested theory. I know now that they design them to hold 15 because they can hold 15, period. But I had downloaded it, and it turned out it was a total of 11. I didn't know that at the time. I couldn't even remember. But anyways, I body shot him like 4 more times as I'm just kicking as hard as I can as he keeps trying to like gather me up, and I'm kicking and shooting and kicking and shooting and kicking and shooting, keep going down the hill, and he finally catches me again, and he gets a hold of me really good, and I'm trying to think about a way to get it shut off, and he's sort of like standing on me, like my upper body, and he's got a hold of my leg by the way we landed again.
So your head is kind of back towards his back feet then, and he's coming over your shoulder
right then
and bite.
Yeah, that would be a fair. We're tumbling and I'm scrambling, right? It's just none of this is in control, and so that's sort of where he's at. And so I stuck the pistol like into his neck right there.
Yeah.
Hey guys, have you checked out OnX? Seriously, I'm coming off of a 2-week trip in northern New Mexico, and I cannot tell you how important OnX was for me. It was a deal where this is an easy product for me to talk about just based on a 2-week experience. When you go into new country, and I've never been in the Paloma Ranch country, northern New Mexico before, with all the features and OnX, I was able to get a really good grasp on that country and understand it at a level that I never could have any other way. There's features in there about tracking yourself so you can make your own tracks and keep track of where you've been. That's important when you're trying to navigate and head off hounds and learn trails. It's sped up the learning curve so quickly. And terrain features. You can look at topo maps. You can look at like heat maps that show you the degree of angle, so you know where those big drop-offs are, know where your dogs are headed. I can't say enough about it. You just got to get into onX and check out all the features. Go to onxhunt.com and get the Elite subscription today. Use the promo code HXP20 and you will get 20% off of your subscription, your annual subscription to onX. Know where you stand with onX.
I know my mind's just screaming, you've got to shut him off. You know,
Right.
you got to hit him in the spine, central nervous system,
Yeah.
right? Headshot or get him in the spine.
Sure.
So I stick it in there, boom, pull the trigger, and it obviously didn't hit his spine, but he kind of let go. But whenever I shot him that time, he like rebit, and he grabbed a hold, and he got me by the inside of the thigh.
On the inside of the thigh. Okay.
Yeah, and I can't honestly tell you where all the damage came from at what succession. I mean, I wasn't paying attention to that at all at that point. But he picked me up, and I remember like he literally like not stand up like you see in the movies, but he picked me up where I was looking, like laying, pretty much my head was barely on the ground. I'm looking up at him with my leg in his mouth, and it was amazing. It was like I was so calm. Because it was almost like a voice. I'm not saying that I heard an audible voice, but it was like something was like telling me, just don't freak out and dump your mag, or like you're already up a creek here. Just be calm and bide your time. Make this work. Because I'm also aware that I might be running out of ammo at this point, right? But my slide's closed. I know something. Theoretically, it should be locked and loaded, right? And he finally sets me back down. Now he's facing
level.
me, but we're still on the incline, but he's right there. So the shot I've been dreaming of is right there because he's chewing on my leg, and I just slam the pistol, semi-automatic, 10 millimeters, is a Glock, right? And I push it down on his head. I smash it on his head. You can't do that with a semi-auto. I know this now.
Takes it out of battery.
Takes it out of battery. You know the term even. I learned that.
Yep.
I was no pistol arrow. I carried one around, and I had that 10 millimeter because these guys talked about how cool it was or whatever. I've always been a rifle guy. Now I'm really into pistols.
Yeah.
Through that deal,
Sure.
I spent a lot of time laid up, and I got really into pistols. I tune them and do all this stuff with them.
Cool.
But anyways, I slammed it on him, and I pulled the trigger, and it clicked.
And you're like, crap.
And I'm just like, my gosh, I know I have a malfunction. So you start breaking this down in your mind, really quickly. I know I've got a malfunction. And so I just it's not like you got time to look at what your issue is there. It's a wonder I didn't rip the slide off the gun. I ripped it as hard as I could to try to, no idea what's going on there, but I tried to clear this malfunction. And when I ripped it, I could literally, like slow motion, see that live round come out of that pistol. It was unbelievable. Like, just the sharpness and the awareness there, right? Come out of the pistol. And I don't know if she's going to close now because I don't know I don't know how much ammo I've got.
Did you reach up and catch it and hand load it back in the barrel?
In hindsight, I should have.
Oh, you had the clarity, man. That's like kung fu moment right there.
I should have added that. It would make a better story. But I saw the live round come out and I let it go, and it slammed shut. Okay.
Ooh, yeah.
So we know where theoretically again we should be live, right?
You still got your shot.
Yeah, he's still wooling me around.
Yeah.
He's losing a little bit of steam at this time. I mean, he's got like, what are we at? What has he got? 9 rounds in him, I think, right now. But at least I think he is. Maybe he's tired. I don't know. But he's not. He's dang sure not laying down. He's not standing still. He's thrashing me around. So I just kind of wait again until he quits shaking for just a second, like he's fixing to like rebite. And I put the gun down. I had no mental clarity on, or I didn't have the wherewithal to say don't slam it on his head again. I wasn't thinking. I wasn't.
Sure.
But I just put it up there and shot, and it killed him, and he dropped right there. And
how long do you think the whole deal lasted?
In the head, about 20 seconds. Yeah. So to me, if you'd asked me fresh out of it, I'd have said, man, it was probably a minute because of this slow motion thing. I can't stress that enough. It was insane how. Just unbelievable, like super slow-mo on a camera, right? How everything broke down. And it's going super fast. But it stoned him. I lost all fear of him instantly right there.
Sure.
But my slide pinned open.
Ooh, so that was the last round you had.
That was my 11th round. Yeah, that was my last round, yeah. So he dies. I know he's dead, but we're on such an incline. When he falls, we tumble a little bit. Because he's basically holding me up. This hill's so steep. So we fall and tumble a little bit. And the way I came to rest, I'm back on my belly, facing steeply downhill. My head's downhill, and I kind of slam into like a big boulder. I'm almost hugging it. And he's uphill from me. Well, I go to rip my leg out from underneath him, and it won't come. And I pull it again real hard. And again, I'm still feeling no pain. I go to pull it out again. I can't get it. Well, I don't care how big he could weigh 1,000 pounds. I can pull one leg out from underneath him. So I try to look, and I'm on my belly, remember, super steep. All I can see is the back of his head. Like it's bent over like this, and his body's all uphill from me. So all I can see is his ears and the back of his head. And I try to pull again. Nothing happens, and I'm thinking he's probably got his claws in me, or maybe he's just bit down on me, right? So I go to like reaching around back there because I know that something's going on, right?
Sure.
And I go to reaching around, and I push as hard as I can, and I get my hand in his mouth, thinking maybe I could pull his mouth open or something, and I can feel his molars. They're going uphill, so his canines are uphill, if that makes sense, pointing away. And I reach further, and there's just something like insanely slimy in his mouth. That's the best way. That was the sensation I got from it, like he had a fish in his mouth, like super slimy. And it just perplexed me a little bit, and I reach as hard as I can reach back up there, and I can feel hair and like skin, but it ain't a bear. Like, I reached further, and I reached down in, and I reached inside of my leg. So like I reached inside of my calf, and it dawned on me that's my hair. You know, it's like the hair on your arm.
Yeah.
It's not the bear, and that's when it was like, okay, this got real. And somewhere in there at that point, I hear screaming. Because remember now, Janelle and the kids were all down the hill listening to this whole deal go on.
Yeah.
And I yelled a time or two, not out of pain or nothing. It was like when all that was happening, I wanted them to know something was wrong.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to need help over this, you know, for sure. Not that I wanted them to come up there, but call someone or something. And so I'm sitting there, and I reach back, and Janelle screams, and I'm like, I need help, you know, like, get up here. I don't remember exactly what I said, but she's yelling, you know, and in her defense, they don't know if the bear's dead or alive. They just hear all this shooting and yelling, right?
Yeah.
So they don't have any idea what's going on because they can't see it, thank God. We're in the cedars, you know, right then. And as I can feel just this warmth just flooding over my body. I knew without looking what that was.
Blood.
It's blood. And I look, and on this real severe hill, it's literally like pooling and running down the hill. Like, I mean, a pretty good flow of blood is running down the hill right there, and it's just covering me. So I think immediately I'm bleeding severely, severely bad. I'm thinking, I know my leg's just destroyed, right? I don't even know what else.
Where was he latched on? Your calf?
I never could see this, and I can't explain this real well. No one there could really explain it real well. But it'd be like if I got a hold of your T-shirt with a pair of pliers or something, and then doubled it over a couple times and twisted it and got it mangled. Because remember, whenever I said I shot him, we tumbled. Well, we kind of tumbled different directions, and he was bit down real hard. Well, it just ripped my gastroc out of my calf, basically. Well, it's your calf muscle, that big muscle. But he got locked into that, going different directions, and it was like a wash rag or something that was wrapped severely tight around his teeth. That's the way that ended up. So it was real hard. They couldn't even see it real well because anytime they'd move it, I would just flip, you know. And now I'm starting to feel pain. It's the big rush of adrenaline's going away, and I'm really, really feeling this. So the blood starts flowing, and I scream now at her, I'm like, get up here fast. Like, I need you to get up here. Because I think I'm bleeding. I'm sure that I'm bleeding. I actually resign myself that I'm going to die here. It's funny, we get real religious, you know. I'm like praying an Our Father, you know, and I'm like really, really trying to. Yeah, because I really did. I thought I'd die right there.
There aren't any atheists in foxholes.
That's what they say, yeah. And it's sort of a similar deal, you know, not as severe as war for sure, but I can see how much blood is coming, and I know I'm not going to last very long at that rate at all. I'm no doctor, but it was lots and lots of blood, and it's just covering me, you know, running down my back. And anyhow, so she screams, "Where's the bear?" And it dawns on me right there, heck, she don't know if he's dead or alive. And I scream, "He's dead, you know, come on, fast as you can come. Come on." And what I didn't know is down the hill.
So you're saying your wife's love is conditional?
Yeah, conditional, yeah. Not unconditional, yeah.
My wife's would be too. It's like, wait a second, are there any snakes? Have you seen any snakes down there?
Right.
And oh yeah, where's that bear?
Right.
It's like, I don't know. I'm not coming.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Lets you know how you're right. But what I didn't know,
she was probably just asking because she was packing heat and she wanted to finish it off for you.
She didn't have a gun.
Oh, that's too bad.
No, I had the gun that was in the pickup, so nobody has a gun.
I tried to make excuses for her.
But and it was a lot of it was the kids.
Sure.
Her, there's no doubt. She'd have gone right in. No, I like to kid with you too.
Yeah.
But she was having to fight my daughter, my oldest daughter, Delaney, because when I started yelling initially, Delaney just took off. She's coming to save her daddy, and so she literally had to subdue her. Like to hang on to her, to keep her, because she knows that I would not want her up there.
Yeah.
We got to protect our children, even at the cost of my life or whatever, obviously. And so that was kind of touching. But she ended up, once I said he's dead, Delaney's a heck of an athlete and is extremely good shape, run the mountains her whole life. So she gets up there before Mama, and when she kind of topped, there was just a little deal they topped right there. Like another little draw or something where she could see me, and I'll never forget. She come over and she just goes, and she grabs her mouth when she sees all this, because I'm just covered in blood. She sees my legs ripped wide open, and here's this dead bear. And I have to back up just a second.
Right.
This is the cool. I always screw this up, but when it started hurting. There's so many things going on here. I'm not a good narrator, and I don't know how to tell it all.
You're doing outstanding.
To flow
simultaneously. You got me sitting on the edge of my seat, man. So usually at this point in a podcast, I'm like looking at the clock thinking, when's this going to be over?
And I can shut up anytime.
No. You keep rolling, man. Back up.
At this point. But I had a mini Griptilian Benchmade in my pocket. Brand new knife, so it's razor sharp, because a pocket knife's never sharp, right? You're using a knife, you're cutting twine or whatever with it. And when they were still on their way up, it took them just a little bit to get up there. It started hurting so bad, I was just about to go out of my mind. And so I took my knife and skinning lots of bears. I thought if I can break that atlas joint, I could give myself, how when you cut one's head off when you're skinning him, I thought if I could break that, maybe it'll give me some relief. I don't know what's going on, but I know that my leg's in his mouth. I told you I discovered that. So I reach. It's so awkward though. I'm going over my back and I reach and I stab him right there about where that atlas joint would be, and I tried to wiggle that knife. Well,
explain where the atlas joint is for people that may be unaware.
The knob on the back of your head, like a human. They've got a knob also on the back of their skull, and that's where what I think is called, I don't know the scientific term, but the atlas joint is the top vertebrae on the spine that joins the spine to the skull. That's where all those tendons and muscles tie all that in. So that's when you take something's head off, that's what you try to cut through and articulate that and get the tendons cut and the head comes off. So that's what I had in my mind, was I'd loosen that off somehow. So I stabbed him and I wiggled it around. Well, when I wiggled it, it moves his whole head, and it would go next level pain.
Yeah.
So I had to quit, but I left the knife stuck in the back of his head. So Delaney, to hear her tell it, she got there and she sees this dead bear laying on the top of me, and there's a knife sticking out of the back of his skull. So she thinks I killed him with my knife.
The legend lives on.
That's where I screwed up, is I didn't think quick enough. I cleared that up. I was too honest about it. And I should have said, because nobody would have ever questioned me, because she gets there and I'm dying and the knife's in the back of his head. But anyhow, she gets there and I just told her, I said, you got to get something around my leg. I didn't think about my darn leather belt I have on. I carry a tourniquet pretty much everywhere now too. That's something, anybody listening to this, if you're around firearms, in the field, knives, tourniquets, you can buy them on Amazon, good ones, and they're easy to use for nothing. I don't care what.
And they weigh nothing. They take up no space in your pack.
No, they got them now where it's like a belt that Velcros on, and it's got a handle on it.
Absolutely.
And it's like turning on
lock it in.
Faucet, they say. I've had doctors, I've asked them, how do you know? And they say, you keep turning until the blood stops, and then quit turning. And mark the time. You've got to mark, they know how to rehab the limb. Because if you got to go 10 hours like that, they need to know that. You got to know when you put the tourniquet on.
Yeah.
So I don't think about my belt. So she takes her shirt off, and she's got a sports bra on. I don't really realize that. My wife's getting there at this point, too, now. And she's just like, oh, my gosh, because they're seeing it's apparently, really bad for them to look at. And I just said, Mama, you gotta get my leg tied off. I'm bleeding to death. Like, I'm pouring blood right now, okay? So she gets Delaney's shirt. Best they can do, and she gets it wrestled under my leg, and she gets it cranked off as tight as she can or whatever. And she starts looking, and they start trying to pull on the head and getting it off, and I'm just freaking out. Like, I can't control myself. It hurts so bad. It's horrific just laying there. But when they move it, it's ripping on that muscle's already tight as a banjo string. So they're moving it, and it really hurts.
You had to feel that all the way up into your back, and because I mean your Achilles and all that stuff. It goes all the way up.
Yeah, I still have lots of trouble with my Achilles. Yeah. So yeah, that's all interconnected. It's funny you learn about the human body through these things, but. Anyhow, they had already called. They'd had my sister call 911. She's got the rest of the other 3 kids, the 3 younger ones, down there on the hill. Mama told them not to come, and she's so I think it was Bonnie. I think made the initial call to 911, and they get up there and she goes, "I need a phone. I need to get somebody here." Well, they don't have a phone because the phone's down the hill. As they're messing, they finally have given up. Like I can't handle them moving it. I just said, "Just stop. Just please stop." And Janelle clarified she thought a lot of blood was coming out of that bear. I just shot him on the top of the head, right?
Yeah.
And they bleed
bad. That's a bleeder.
And so while I was bleeding a lot, I didn't have a major artery torn open yet.
Thank goodness.
I did not. They could actually see my tibial artery. So when the paramedics got there, they started talking about it. They said, we can't touch that. They could see the tibial artery. They could see it pulsating, flowing blood. It was not punctured, though. Thank goodness. So anything, a stick would have changed that whole deal, real quick. Just anything to touch that artery. So she's saying, I need a phone. So remember my cell phone? It's up the hill on that little bench right at the edge where he hit me, knocked it out of my hands. And my phone starts ringing up the hill. So it's like 30 yards up the hill, something like that. It starts ringing, and Janelle tells Delaney, run up there and get it. So she sprints up that face. She says, it's got to keep ringing, right? Or she ain't going to be able to find it. She gets there to it, and right as she gets to it, missed call, right? It's rang enough. It went to voicemail or whatever. Mm-hmm. So she gets it, and she runs back down the hill, and Janelle looks. It was Clint Henson. Clint was the chief here out of the Game and Fish office. He's retired now.
No kidding.
Yeah. And I've known him for a long time. Good friend. Always got along with him. Great guy. And it was Clint calling because anytime wildlife related, they radio to Game and Fish. Also the dispatch is going to call them in on it because they know it's involving a bear. Right. Well, it comes over dispatch that it's a 36-year-old female. I'm a 38-year-old male. My wife's 38, but it's a 30. They somewhere that got screwed up with my sister or whatever.
Sure.
So Clint's first thought, because knowing the address, he goes, Janelle got attacked by a bear. That's the way he interpreted that.
Sure.
He's already en route. But he wants to get a hold of me to see where I'm at, what's going on, what's happening.
Yeah, to get some information.
Get some information. So she just calls back immediately, or he might have called again. I don't remember. But she either called him back or he called again. She answered. She's like, Clint. And he's like, Janelle? And she says, yeah. And he says, what happened to you? And she goes, it ain't me. It's Bridger, And she said, Clint, you got to get here now. Like this thing's on him. And you got to think on his end how he's hearing all this.
Sure.
She doesn't say he's dead. She said this thing's on him. He can't get away from it. It's just got a hold of his leg. His leg's stuck in its mouth and blah blah blah. This, that, and the other. So Clint's like, my gosh, what is going? This has got to be wild. You can imagine what was going through his head. And so then she calls my brother-in-law, Brad, who's the ranch foreman here now. Mm-hmm. He's my father-in-law's son. So that succession on the ranch history there, but calls him, and they're working at a camp. They were putting a roof or something on a house, and she gets a hold of him. So he drives Mach 90. He takes off, and then there's police coming, and of course fire and EMS is on their way also. And then Clint gets there. Clint's the first on the scene aside from my family. Clint's the first on the scene. Tyler is running the buggy back and forth to the county road because we're way off the road. They're not going to find us. And so he's jockeying people out across there, getting them there. And then they all get up there. Clint gets up there, and he starts looking and messing with it. And again, I'm just going, I can't hold it in. I can't. When they start moving it, it's just, I've never felt pain anywhere near that in my life. And so he starts messing with it. And he's like, okay, I got to quit. We got to get the paramedics here, EMS or whatever. And they all get on scene finally. Anthony Burke, and there was a whole bunch of them. But they get up there, and they start fooling with it, and they can't figure it out. Clint finally produces a little saw, and they cut. You know how the jaw split on the bottom? There's a hole in the middle. Yep. They get one side cut off. I'm telling them. I'm not trying to talk them through it. Like, do this, do that, because I'm – and, of course, they didn't need me telling them, I'm sure. But Clint gets through one side. But when he's sawing, it's gyrating that thing's head, and it's just – I'm just going – I'm biting like I'm finding sticks and stuff because I'm thinking my kids are hearing this and I got to be quiet,
Right.
I'm stressing them worse. And so we're doing all that. My brother-in-law shows up. He's kind of just watching. Not one of those guys at the time was qualified to give any medicine. I hate pain meds. I hate all that kind of stuff. I don't like medicine of any kind. I wanted a shot of something bad. Not one of them had the qualifications to give any kind of shot, morphine or anything like that. So I had to just take all that. But they messed with it, and then they were talking, different things. And finally, my brother-in-law, he's super quiet and super reserved. They said, well, we're going to have to try to take him and the bear off the mountain at the same time. And he's like, Brad speaks up, and I remember, he's like, you're going to tear his leg off. It's going to rip his leg off, or it's going to tear the rest of that artery out. That ain't going to be good. He finally cleared it away, and he takes my knife and he scores its head off. So he cuts it down to the bone there, and then they finally are able to dig in there at the atlas joint.
Right.
And they finally got the head detached.
How long did it take them?
They got the body detached, and then they had to move the head, and they're like, all right, so we're an hour and a half into this. An hour and a half. So he's full rigor mortis, right? His jaw is so clamped. You know how they get. I mean, you can't move.
Jaws are the first thing that go to rigor mortis.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
But yeah, he's locked up. So now they're trying to pull, and they actually had to do a little cutting back there on me. But it was that or not get that thing's head off. But I'll never forget, I heard a big thwack, like something hit the ground. And they go, okay, it's off. It was zero relief. I kept just dreaming, laying there just praying to go to sleep, and I would try to go to sleep. I would literally, almost meditating, like I was trying to go somewhere else to get away from that pain. And every time I would act like I was kind of asleep, or, I just have my eyes shut, and I would try to be just as still as I could. My wife starts screaming at me, don't go to sleep, because in those situations you're not supposed to let someone go to sleep, or that's what we're always told. She would get after me, I hear the head come off. There's no relief. None. I can't even tell they got it off. It's just so much pain, it's unreal. Not as bad as when they were jerking on it, but it's not any relief. So they get me turned over. They've got me tourniqueted. They've got, they bandaged some stuff up there. They get me on they have a mountain gurney, they call it.
Yep.
It's this real lightweight thing. So there's 6 of them or something get on there. And there's some other cowboys have showed up now. My sister-in-law's there with all their kids, little Rachel that you met.
Got you strapped to the board.
Yeah, they're all in the bottom. They're not with us, but then they go walking on. I'll never forget one of those guys. I started telling them, I said, watch the cactus, because they're kind of stumbling going off the hill. And one of those guys, one of the paramedics, I don't remember his name, he fell flat into a big old pear cactus. And as he stood up, and they start carrying me again, I'm reaching over and I'm pulling thorns out of his butt because he looks like a porcupine. He just sat in a giant grove of pear,
Sure.
So they take me down off the hill, and they start talking, and I can actually hear it. There's a helo coming in, and it dawns on me they called a life flight in. Well, that same Mesa Blosser, January before this July, there was a helicopter crash up there that I hiked up and had to find. Nobody could find it. It was in the middle of the night. 5 people died. 2 of them kind of in my hands, and the others were burned to death. It was something no one should have to see.
Right.
And I vowed right there I'd never get in a helicopter again. So now I'm already starting to argue about it. I said, I'm not getting in a helicopter. And they just kind of blow me off like they're trained to do. And
right.
So the ambulance was down the hill. They put me in the ambulance, and they land the helo right there at the edge of the mesa, and the 2 flight nurses get off. These are paramedics, like high-level paramedics, and they get off, and they start running, they're running IV stuff.
Sure.
And I'm arguing with her. I said, ma'am, I'm not going to get on the helicopter. I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to do that. I thought, man, I've been close enough already today, and I'm not getting big thunderheads coming in the evening. They were going to take me to Denver, and actually had to reroute to Albuquerque because the storm, we had to wait so long there. They had to wait so long there, we couldn't get to Denver. So they're messing around, and she's running this stuff, and he pokes his head in, the other flight nurse, because he's talking to the pilot. He said, we got to go now. Like the pilot's hollering because the storm is moving in, and he wants to be off the ground and out of here. And and she goes, okay, I'm about done. And I said, ma'am, I just told you I'm not getting on that thing, or on that helicopter. And she just said verbatim, she said, honey, you don't have a choice. And she just started sliding that juice into me. and
put you out.
It didn't knock me out, but okay.
It
just, it made me not combative, about it at all. And so they got me out of there, and I'm sure I'm missing stupid details somewhere, but they got me out of there, and they finally loaded me on the chopper, and they had to turn because they're heavy now. And it's crazy. I don't know how they take a real big, I'm 6'1", and they just barely got me in that. So a big dude, I don't know how they'd get him in there, but they got off. And the pilot, he knew what he was doing. He's a military pilot. Martinez was his name. He turned around, and he just got it barely off the ground, just started diving down into that valley just barely off the ground. So everybody there was like, they're going to crash. That thing's fixing to crash. Well, all he was doing is he's building forward airspeed to where he can create lift, and he gets up out of there. That's exactly what he did. But everybody watching it was thinking, man, he ain't going to make it through today yet. So anyways, they got me on the helo, and I was horrified off and on all the way down through there from the helicopter.
Right.
They flew me to UNM, which turned out good. They have a level 1 trauma center. It's the best in the Southwest, they say. Of course, Albuquerque, they get lots of practice.
That's awesome.
It's lots of crime and stuff. But they got me there, and I remember them. I remember getting there. They landed, and they wheeled me in the hospital. And I got to see one of the ladies' pagers that work in the emergency room, and it actually said on there, incoming life flight, bear mauling victim or bear attack or something like that. So everybody in the hospital was there to see this.
Yeah.
I got more than the normal crew.
So you're spying on the pager on the...
No, I saw that because a Marine buddy of mine from Albuquerque was dating that girl. That was just coincidentally, and he showed me the picture of her pager, and that's what it said. So I had a huge welcoming party getting there, and then the doctors come flooding out to me, and they start poking around on my leg. And I would just freak out because it still hurt, whenever they would push on it. And they said, I remember them just saying, like, prep him for surgery right now. We got to knock him out. We're not going to be able to touch this thing until we got to go into surgery anyway. So they can see my bone and all the meat's hanging off the back of my leg. And I remember waking up, and my wife was there, and I'd been in surgery for 4 hours. There was 35 inches of laceration. It was well over 200 stitches and staples. They had to sew 3 layers of meat. They kind of layer it back because there's layers in your leg. Mm-hmm. They had to do that. They had to reattach my gastroc to the bone, basically, and then my hamstring was pretty much detached. They had to reattach all that stuff and then sew all that back up there. So I was in trauma for 7 days. The worst deal, the most life-threatening thing out of the whole deal was the big rips, like on my calf and stuff like that. They were big, long lacerations. That's okay because they can flush those out. They can irrigate them. They have literally a little pressure washer, and they blow all that out with some kind of sterile chemical. But I had these big singular bite marks in my inner thigh, and that thing's canines are what on a big bear like that they're what 2.5, 3 inches or something. Well, he's biting, so he's crushing them down in there 4 inches, or something like that. They sewed all those shut. They just closed those up. They flushed them best they could, and then they showed them up. And then I forget the name of the antibiotic they put me on, but in about a day, in about 24 hours, I start getting this red cloud spreading over my leg. So they start tracing it with a Sharpie. They literally trace it on my leg, and then by the hour, it would outgrow those lines by an inch. And it's just like a big storm cloud building. It's just building. And I mean like roasted hog red. It was not a normal... I had never seen that. You have a little infection.
You don't have to be a doctor to look down at your own leg and say,
right,
this isn't right.
It's like Gus on Lonesome Dove is what I thought of him actually. Like, and it starts building. Well, they can't figure it out. So there's a lot of people that are like checking in on me, and they're trying to see what's going on with Janelle, and I've got game and fish buddies. And Kyle Jackson texted my phone because Janelle was manning my phone and her phone, and he said, make sure his doctor team calls this doctor, Dr. Joe Bergman. He's out of Bozeman. He's the foremost authority on bear attack treatment in the world. So they'll fly people from Alaska to this guy. He's of course, around there they get lots of practice up at Yellowstone. Somebody's mauled every day up there. So one of the teams in and out of there, they're really, really, they're not panicky. They don't ever panic, but they're really, really concerned about this. There's people in and out like all the time. They've got me at almost lethal levels of this other antibiotic that they treat a dog bite with, a mountain lion bite, any kind of really deal that treats this and is effective. But they can't figure out why this infection's spreading. And so I tell them, you got to call this doctor. I give them the number. She writes it down. But we know how doctors can be. And here's this redneck here on the bed.
Sure, trying to tell us
they're
going
to blow me off, right? Yeah. So in a few hours, they come in, and I think my wife had talked to Kyle, and Kyle said, you make dang sure they call this Bergman, because he had been to workshops they do with game and fish people on treatment of this kind of stuff, right? And so one of them come in again, or the doctor or somebody, and I said, look, y'all call that doctor. They said, we've got him on the phone right now. We had to vet him. And make sure his credentials and things like that. And they've got him on the phone. So he tells them immediately the antibiotic that I'm on, their IVing, it won't treat that. So bears have this bacteria in their body, and I can't remember. It's a 25-letter word, just I can't remember what it is. But you know how bears can be so wormy and eat rotten, disgusting things, but they still thrive. They have great body condition. Where a deer or a horse or a dog, they'll die under those kind of parasite loads, where a bear will thrive. This bacteria that lives in their systems. No, it's not trichinosis. Okay. That's a different deal. Okay. It's just some bacteria that's in their system that allows them to go ahead and do fine under giant parasite loads.
Sure.
But I thought infection's infection. Infection's just an infection. Well, that's not the case. There's different types of infections. That bacteria makes a whole different infection than a dog bite, a lion bite, anything like that.
Yeah.
That's why they can't treat it. And he told him he wanted to know. They showed him pictures. He wanted to know exactly how they did everything. And he said, okay, all those singular holes, you've got to open them back up. He said, that's wrong. He said, normally, I talked to this doctor. I called him to thank him, like 6 months later. He said he would have connected the dots with a scalpel. He'd have just cut them all, just filleted me open between them so he could irrigate it more and leave them open. So he says you got to get him on vancomycin. I do remember that.
Yeah.
And that's something, it blew my doctor's minds. They're like, we can't, that stuff's lethal, and that's for like severe staph infections, if I remember right. Again, I'm not a doctor. But they put me on that to where they have to test my blood like every 4 hours, because if it goes just a tick over, it'll kill you. It's wicked, wicked stuff, right? So they keep testing your blood, and they put me on this drip, and the worst thing, I still think the worst pain of the entire thing, so I'm probably over 24 hours, approaching 48 hours. They come in with a big team again, and they have to take those stitches out of those singular bites. Stitches don't hurt. Right.
Right.
We've all had stitches.
I pulled them out myself.
Pull your own stitches. You just slide them out.
Yeah, it's like, come back in 14 days and we'll take the stitches out. Thanks, Doc. Never see you again.
Right. Well, let me tell you something. These sunbucks hurt. I don't know if it was just because it was so fresh or maybe because of the infection. Just the stitches. And they kept putting me on morphine. They give me I think it's 2 milligrams. I think you can take up to 8. After that, it'll kill you.
Yeah.
So you can do that. I got through the stitches. She got them pulled out. But now it's growing back together, right? It's been like 48 hours. So those wounds are already closed up. They're scabbed up and they're closing up. And she had to break those open with her fingers. And then she'd take one of those big, long Q-tip wooden handle things. And she had to shove them in and out of those holes, 3-4 inches down in my leg, and scrub it to redisturb the wound so they could get them opened up and then pack them. And when she run that thing in and out of those holes in my leg, I just can't describe to you. And so I was under as much morphine as they could give me. I hated that stuff. But they just kept giving it to me until they couldn't anymore, because I couldn't.
I wouldn't have felt it very long. I'd have passed out.
Yeah, I kept, and that whole even on the bear deal, I was like praying to pass out.
Yeah.
And anyway, she finally got through that. So they took and then they'd pack it with like a ribbon every day. My wife had to pack it for about 2 weeks or 3 weeks after we got home, but it kept getting shallower. They got me off that. So finally they got me to where the infection got under control, and they got me up one time in the hospital and walk. And when I'd get up and then the blood flow would go back to the leg, it would turn like bizarre colors. And the big thing they figured out, though, is they started doing some orthopedic stuff, and I had no feeling, zero. I had a little bit on the bottom of my foot and on like the front of my shin. So they did these things where they make you close your eyes and they poke you like with an ink pen. And they say, well, this isn't important at this point, but he's got some severe nerve damage. And that's right over your popliteal junction, they call it, where your sciatic branches off into your tibial and your perineal nerves, which are serious nerves, that control all your
So you're trying to walk around, you don't have any feeling in your feet. So that's
they didn't want me putting weight on it anyways. I didn't put any weight. I was crutching. But they wanted to get me up once.
Yeah.
And so I did that. And anyways, that's pretty much it. I spent about 3 months in bed and atrophied. It's unreal. I still don't feel like I was never like a big stout guy, but I mean, you lose so much muscle tone. It's just unbelievable. That was hard to kind of overcome in itself. And that's it pretty much. I guess there's a lot of other little finite.
You mean you don't have any other story? You haven't got a story better than that? Holy smoke, man. Seriously, I have. You could see it on my face. I mean, I'm just like hanging on every word here and it's sitting on the edge of my seat. I've never heard a story like that before. That's crazy.
Yeah. It was wild. I wish it wouldn't have happened.
Well, sure. Yeah.
It would be a cool story if it wasn't for the nerves. And that's the stuff. I do fine. I ski. and I can hike. I've got to have some serious. Kinetrek's done an amazing job building me some custom footwear. And they've been, I shout out to Kinetrek, like they're an amazing company and done some great things for me. And so to hike, I got to do that. And I've been through lots of surgeries since. We've done nerve engraftment. None of the nerves would ever come back because they were like 7 centimeters missing where he just ripped it out completely. Yeah. So that won't regenerate from that far. But the end deal, I did a tibial tendon transfer. And it's just a jury rigging is all it is. They just take some tendons that are kind of working, cut them off, cut the ones that aren't working off, and then they cross them over and tie them up, and they basically cinch them up to hold my foot in a neutral position because I had to wear a giant AFO brace for 4 years, 3.5 years.
No kidding.
And that brace stunk, and you get all kinds of weird looks. And,
sure.
And I'm very self-conscious about it, honestly, like with a brace, because you're like, I'm like this guy that like, I can't be hurt, right? Like all of us were invincible,
sure.
And then now you catch people and they're like staring at you, and wasn't a real big deal, but I didn't like it at all. And I had just an unbelievable foot drop, so my foot just hung. I can't twitch my toes. I still can't, but they've, for lack of a better term, sort of welded it in a neutral position there where I don't have to wear a brace all the time. But if I get on uneven ground and
I
stuff,
really didn't. When we were outside and walking around here, I did.
Yeah,
wouldn't have even noticed it.
Level ground's no big deal. It's just balance I struggle with because nothing reacts. Your body is so intricate, and when you have stuff that's just not functioning, especially in your foot, ankle, and leg, it just. So I use trekking poles where I can. I used to think those were for hippie bird watchers.
They're hippie sticks, but now you need them.
I like them.
And I'll tell you, somebody else needs them when you hit 50 years old, and you start closing in on that mid-50s.
Yeah.
You don't have the flexibility and stuff. So when I'm carrying loads, or even without a load, walking through this country.
Yeah.
I used to just be able to skip through it, it's just like dun, 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 dun.
Jump from rock to rock.
Yeah. and now it's like you're measuring every step because things don't flex and bend, and it's weird. So I can only imagine what you're going through.
That's right. So it works, and I'm blessed beyond belief, and it can always be worse. You look.
Sure.
I'll never forget, and I'll shut up. But in the hospital, whenever they told me that I had all this crazy nerve damage and, nothing was ever going to be. I was lucky to have my leg. When I got on the helicopter, they told my wife, they said, we would just want to prepare you because all the meat had gone just ashen gray, like all my muscle had, because they'd been exposed for an hour and a half, almost 2 hours. And they just told him, they told her, they said he'll probably lose his leg. When he wakes up in Albuquerque, his leg's going to be gone. So it could have always been worse there,
Sure.
For sure. And so I'm laying there in bed, and I'm feeling sorry for myself. And I look out, and there's a car crash lady. Man, the helo comes in and out all night, life flights, right? One night, there were 7 gunshots come into that hospital through life flight. It was unreal. Wow. Yeah, I say, they get a lot of practice, but there was a lady come walking down the hall, and like in her mid-30s, that her leg was gone from the thigh down because of the car crash. Yeah. And I thought, you miserable son of a gun, you can't, don't be feeling sorry for yourself, because somebody's always got it a lot worse. So in the great grand scheme of things, I'm fine. I'm totally fine.
Do you do the Freedom Hunters events here?
We do. Yeah, we have, and we do in
Colorado. You've had veterans here.
Yeah, double amputees and things like that. So that's really easy.
Gives you some.
Yeah. And they've got great attitudes, about it. And like I say, I've got my family.
Sure.
Which is, I'm a rich man, by that standard. That's how I see that. So, it's been quite a ride, and there's been a lot of adverse things with it too.
Sure.
But the medicine, the gabapentin for the nerve pain changed me, like my family. It caused problems, actually, because my poor wife, she's like, she's got her spot niched out in heaven, no doubt, just from hell here on earth, like the Marty Robbins song. But it does a lot with your nervous system to reroute things to where you don't feel that. That nerve pain was incredible. Like every night it would just go to it felt like somebody was screwing a screw into the side of your foot. And but that stuff is crazy. It just mentally, I'd start crying at the drop of a hat, or I would get violently mad, or I was super unstable.
I've heard weird stuff about gabapentin,
and it wasn't the bear deal. It's like the PTSD type thing they talk about, or what so much of that. I don't mean that like it was. I thought something like that was related, but it was once I was able, and you got to wean yourself off that. It takes a period of weeks. That's crazy stuff. Wicked side effects. Yeah. And I don't feel like it helped that much anyways, but I was at the point I don't care about the pain. I got to get off of this stuff. And it's not like an opiate. It's not an addictive thing at all. It's not like you get high from it or nothing, but it was just not. It was terrible for me. So, yeah. been a wild few years.
Well, Bridger, I'm going to tell you what, man. I don't know how we're ever going to top a story like that on this podcast. That was outstanding. It was amazing. I appreciate you taking time.
Yeah.
You're a busy guy.
Yeah.
We've been trying to play phone tag for last 10 days trying to get this lined up, and
You bet.
and so I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. But
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear you're still getting after it, and still got the lion dogs anyway.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
That side of
we
it.
go. It was rough catching the first bear. Me and John went up in Colorado. And,
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. It was like hearing everything treed and all that stuff. And like, it was, and I put my hands on the first one. The first one of the fall, we killed that next fall. It was a big old nasty bear.
Yeah.
Boar missing like an ear, and bait on the ground. And he was bait in a willow thicket. So I don't mean a little thick. I mean bad thick. And yeah, it was really hard to overcome that. Like, I'm not going to lie. It was very difficult. But I got to where they still scare me a lot more than I have more respect for them than I do. Lions still don't bother me, but the bears was different.
Sure.
For sure. So I definitely hunted lots and lots of bears since then. So a lot of people think that's why I've slowed down on the hound hunting deal with the bears, but it has nothing to do with it. I hunted them for 4 years after that or 3 years after that. And so it's just the turn life's taken, I guess, right now. So yeah.
Yep. Well, I'm gonna you're about ready to wrap this up. You got got a bunch of kids running around here, and again, I can't tell you how grateful I am for you carving out time out of your busy schedule, Bridger.
Yeah, for sure.
So, we got Bridger Petrini, and we're sitting at the T.O. Ranch headquarters, and we just heard the most epic story I've ever heard, and. So thanks for tuning into this episode of the Houndsman XP Podcast. Make sure you check out all of our gear over on our website at houndsmanxp.com. T-shirts, hats, decals, all that kind of stuff is right there. Check out our sponsors and make sure you are supporting them as well because they support us. And we are the voice for Fair Chase Houndsman. Thanks for listening to the Houndsman XP Podcast. This is Fair Chase.